Hey guys, session is gonna be special because we're gonna talk about history, board exams, important questions, and I'm gonna cover each chapter so that you have a good idea of the number of questions that might come across in the paper. So, without wasting any time, let's get started, and this is gonna help you analyze how much are you prepared for the exam. So, guys, let's get started with the very first chapter. I've arranged the questions with the marking scheme. Let's 1 mark, 3 mark, 5 mark questions. So, let's try to go through the important questions and let's see how much do you guys know about this particular exam. So, here we go. The very first question is, what was the main aim? Can you guys please wait for a minute and concentrate on the word main aim? So yes, that's what I want you to go through. The main aim of Treaty of Vienna of 1815. So yes, my dear friends. So what happened is, see, I'll just give you a brief overview of the answer. So the Treaty of Vienna, the main purpose of it, that was why it was signed, was because it wanted to undo most of those changes that came about in Europe, things that had gone really wrong after, especially the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleonic era, so especially to control, have a charge of that Napoleonic stuff. And it was signed so that they could probably re-establish the conservative regimes in Europe, because now people had started to question the power of the government. So they somehow wanted the government to come back to power, to old conservative regime to come back, hold the power, and again try to have the monopoly, that hold over the people. I hope this question is clear, because this is the content that you guys are supposed to write. The exact precise stuff that you guys need to focus on when you are supposed to attempt a question like this. Moving on to the second question that we have here, or I would say the next question. Let's not number them. So here we have the next question, that is, nationalism, like the feeling of collectiveness, the feeling through which you can probably associate yourself with. So the nationalism spreads when people begin to believe that they are all the part of the same nation. Now, how can you support this nation? Like, this concept that yes, they start believing that it's like they have a country, they are united, maybe it be a language, may it be a region, may it be some dialect. So yes, to answer this, let's say this is a 5 mark question, you have to justify the same with 5 points. So the very first thing that you guys can talk about it, let's try to analyze how much do we know. Can I say yes, they can associate themselves if they have, let's say, any image or maybe symbol. So yes, if they have an image or a symbol that probably can be identified as or related to with the concept of nationalism, helps them spread and ensure that they are always high with the spirit of nationalism. Second important thing is, there is some historic event, or maybe let's say history comes to play, maybe the folk fair, folklore, maybe the songs, maybe the print, maybe the symbols, all that sort of things also help to spread the spirit of nationalism. Third, you can talk about the variety of maybe the cultural processes, through which the people, they sort of, spread the feeling of nationalism that's captured through their imagination, that we've a shared culture, we belong to the same country. So yes, it also kind of helps spread the feeling of nationalism, or ensure that the people feel associated, that they belong to the part of the same nation. Next you can talk about is, yes, the sense of collective belonging through all those past. For example, if I talk about India, we have been united together through the experience of all those struggles that we underwent, or maybe the colonial struggle helped shape India, the present India that we live in. So yes, the sense of collective belonging also goes a great way, because through the phase of nationalism or that nationalist struggle, you guys come together, you guys share the ideas, share the concepts, or share your identities, and you come together in the forefront, and yes, we are a country. And last thing that I can talk here is, you know, it can be the spirit of nationalism. Yes, it can be developed only and only when the people discover that there is some bond, or maybe some unity that actually binds them together. So unity, in that case, that strong bond needs to be there to ensure that people feel that yes, they're a part of this nation, they have to contribute for the upliftment and development of the nation. So I'll repeat all the important points for you guys. If you guys can remember them, number one can be this, like I told you, the spirit of nationalism can be discovered with when people discover that they have the same bond, then through the united struggle of, may it be, it can be related to your freedom struggle. Then also you have to talk about, like I told you, um, the cultural process also comes into play, then all the history, all the symbols, and also any image that you guys can probably allegory, that you guys can associate it, that's right, helps to ensure that there's a sense of belonging to one's nation. Easy question. Okay, that's an important one, by the way. Next, move on to the next. Let's move on to the next question. It's a very important question. Like, you have to describe the process of unification of Italy. I know might sound tricky. So whenever something like of that sort strikes your mind, you have to remember the name of this particular person, Mazzini, and especially this particular area, that is Sardinia, Piedmont. That's right. That's the only state out of all the princely state that India, Italy was divided into, especially during the 19th century. Only this particular state that it was ruled by the Italian princely house. Now, what happened is, see, the entire Italy was divided into many princely states, to give you an idea. But it was basically broadly divided into three sections. The first was under Austria Hungary, the second section was under Pope, and the third section was under Bourbon kings of the Spain. Now, what happened is, there was this revolutionary leader. I'll just narrate the story so that it clicks your mind and then you can arrange it. So, what happened during the middle of 18th century? Italy was basically divided into seven. Like, there were total seven states, out of which just one state, that is Sardinia Piedmont, it was ruled by the Italian princely house. So what happens? This ruler, this not ruler, there was this great, I would say, revolutionary leader of Italy who inspired the youth with his ideas, single-handedly established, tried to like made efforts to unify Italy with his efforts. So what he did is, the government became really suspicious of what this person is going to do. He's going to, take the charge. Now, when something of that comes into play, now this person had to function secretly. So yes, he did set up secret societies. So what is the name of those secret societies? Just in case you have a question for 1 mark. The very first secret society that he set up was Young Italy in Marseilles. And the second secret society that he set up was Young Europe in Bern. So what he did, he established these two secret societies, with all those like-minded youth, young men, so that they could probably, sort of get help, from German states, Italy, France, or maybe for that matter, Poland. Now, so this is first step that he did. So we talked about Italy, divided into seven princely states. One was ruled by Italian ruler, or you can also talk about it was divided into three parts. The central part was under the charge of Pope. So Mazzini prepared the ground for this person, that is Cavour. So he created this ground. He said, listen, I've set up so much, I've done so much. Now, what you need to do is you have to complete the process of unification of Italy. So, after a series of measures that this person undertook, finally, this king, that is King Victor Emmanuel, yes, you guys have studied it a lot. So Victor Emmanuel, he was finally crowned as the king of Italy through all those struggles. And by the way, for your information, this person is none other than the chief minister who actually through his all those tactful diplomatic measures, he ensured that he get alliance with the help, alliance with France, and sort of defeated Austria in 1859. So now to conclude, I would say there is one more person under the leadership of Giuseppe Garibaldi with his armed revolutionary. So they marched into South Italy because it was under the control of the Spain rulers. So he was little revolutionary on that side. He took his army, and with his army he went and attacked, the rulers of the Spain, and especially I would say the along with the kingdom of two Sicilies, and he sort of won the local peasants help. The local peasants contributed and drove those Spanish away. So in this way, unifying Italy they helped to unify Italy in 1861, and Victor Emmanuel II, he was crowned as the king of United Italy at that time. So I hope this has helped you. I'll talk about it once again. This is point number one, divided into three sections. Then we talked about, let's see what we have here. So, like I told you, it was seven states. Then Sardinia Piedmont was the only Italian state. Next, what happened? There was this leader. We talked about his two societies right here. We talked how he prepared a ground so that the chief minister could complete the process of unification, and Victor Emmanuel II could be crowned as the emperor of unified Italy. So then I talked about that, yes, what happened? Series of failures were there. Then Cavour, however, ensure that there is alliance with France, and we are in a position to defeat Austria also. And especially under the leadership of this revolutionary person, that is Garibaldi, they sort of drove away the Spanish rulers that I just told you in the South Italy with the help of the local peasants at that time, and sort of unified Italy with Victor Emmanuel as the king. Cool, guys? Okay, so let's proceed to the next question. That is a very easy question. I know most of you know this question. By the way, this was asked in 2016. 1 mark question. So the question is, who were the colons in Vietnam? So we're talking about Indochina now. Yes, yes, I know most of you know these are the French people living in Vietnam. They were known as colons. You guys are very intelligent that way. And guys, do you know the answer to this question by any chance? Like, what was the main aim of the scholar revolt of 1868? Yes, so yes, you got it right. See, the main aim of Scholar Revolt was basically the scholars. scholar, as in the intelligent people. So they sort of revolted. They said, oh my god, Christianity and there is spread of Catholic concept in our country, we are not liking it. We are seriously not liking it. So they wanted to uproot the French power and ensure, or you can talk like oppose the spread of Catholic concept or Catholic religion. That's Christianity. So that is all about scholars revolt. So let's see what the answer is. So the main aim, like I told you, uproot the French power and check the spread of Christianity. I hope this is clear, guys. Now I'm going to jump onto the very, very important question that you can expect this year, that how was education policy unfavorable to Vietnamese students during the colonial period? Like, how was it not so favorable, even though like you've studied that during that colonial period, education was introduced, especially with the concept of those Tonkin free schools that the French people they introduced in Vietnam. Now, what is this Tonkin free school that was started in 1907? It sort of provided Western school of education or Western style of education that focused more on science, focused more on hygiene, and also French. So they did introduce this. I never said like you can't say that the French people did nothing for the people for the people they used to colonize. So this sort of school, yes, it encouraged the Western style that you need to have short haircuts. So it was basically trying to go against the Vietnamese culture, as their tradition was to keep long hair. Second important concept that you can talk is, see, the school textbooks. Let me write down here. The school textbook is sort of glorified only and only the French people and justified that the colonial rule was actually acceptable to the Vietnamese and they have to accept it. Why they have to accept it? Because there's a white man's burden. We are here to civilize them. They're not so educated. We're here to help them. And the third important thing is the Britishers, or sorry, the French people, they considered that Vietnamese, they were sort of represented in the textbook also as being very primitive background, or I would say backward and only capable of the manual labor. They couldn't be associated with anything that's going creative. So this sort of, and there was also this deliberate practice of not allowing the abled people or the abled Vietnamese to get a certification for a degree. In the last year, they used to make sure that every person who jumps into the last year or, crosses the benchmark, he does not get the passing certificate. And this actually didn't help them get good jobs. Even though you cross the entire system, entire grades for education, suddenly you stop at the last level. That was a deliberate practice to ensure that they did not or they do not compete with French people when it comes to job opportunities or maybe economic terms. That's pretty sad, like really sad. So let's see what we have in the answers. Like I told you, Tonkin free schools. We guys just discussed about Tonkin free schools. Then we talked about the school textbooks that glorified the colonial rule at that time. And finally, that they were represented as primitive, backward, not able to do anything that's worth it. Okay, guys? So let's proceed to the next question. Now, guys, do you know this? Okay, I know this is really cute. Many of you will find it cute. So, anybody who can describe the rat hunt activity that was introduced by the French in Vietnam? So, I'll tell you a very interesting story. Let me narrate it for you. So what happened is in 1903, the modern part of Hanoi, it was, it was basically struck by a plague at that time that was caused by the spread of rats. Now, how things went on, there was large sewage, or I can say drainage lines at that time. So these drainage lines, they sort of acted as good transport system for the rats to go from one place to the other, live there, relax, chill out. And they were, I would say, they would enter into those well cared homes through all those drains. So imagine you're just making sure that one part of Vietnam is developed and the other part is not. It's like you guys are cleaning just your room and leaving the rest of the house like that. Anyway, it's gonna get really messy. It won't help you. Either you clean the entire house, or otherwise other person who's coming from the other room might disturb the carpet or maybe the floor in your room. So the same situation went in Vietnam also. So what happened is, this area, it got stuck by that rats. There was a plague. So to stem, to probably to stem the invasion of the rats, the French people in 1902, because they didn't think good of Vietnamese, so they hired Vietnamese that please come. We are gonna hire you as workers, as paid workers, and we're gonna give you reward for each rat that you guys are gonna get hold of. So the rat hunt sort of caught in. They started this. They got thousands of rats, and they used to make money out of it. Now Vietnamese thought that why can't we make more money? Now, what they used to do is, so these dirty jobs, they were already involved into these dirty jobs. Now, what they did is, they came together, they tried to negotiate for all the, higher money, but since French people were not so good, so they discovered a very innovative way. They said, what do is, we'll just give a part of the rat as a proof that, see, we've killed the rat, and then we'll probably allow that rat to go again into the sewage pipe. This way we're going to make sure that the French people don't rest in peace, and also the rat population does not come under control, so that we can make good amount of money from that. So let's see what we have in the answer. The very first thing that I talked about is the modern part of Hanoi struck by spread of rats was there. Then the sewage pipe sort of, or the drainage pipes I can talk about, they acted as very good transport system, very good. And then the invasion of rats went to that extent that in 1902 they actually hired the Vietnamese worker, but that time it was too late. Now you can't do anything. Like it's like when somebody is asking you to increase the wage, either you do that, but since they were not ready to do that, so they had to face the repercussions. I hope this is clear to everybody. Okay, so let's jump into the most important chapter, that is nationalism in India. Yes. So I'm going to talk about few important questions. Let's see what we have. So the very first question here is, why did Mahatma Gandhi decide to call off the civil disobedience movement? Anybody who wants to try this question? Any ideas? Just give me some idea so that I can analyze like where you guys stand. Like, why did he decide to call off civil disobedience movement? What went wrong? Yes, guys. See, the Britishers, they were really, they were really worried about all the developments because of the movement that was launched, that civil disobedience movement, and they started to, arrest the various Congress leaders from here and there. So when they started to do that, this sort of led to a violent clash in many parts of the country. So the people were coming head on, and there was a clash with the police also. So finally, things went under control. They were taken charge of. What happened is, there's this person who's known as Frontier Gandhi. His name is Abul Ghaffar Khan. So this person was arrested from Peshawar. So the crowd went really angry. They started, they demonstrated in the, in the streets. They sort of took hold of the arms also. Firing started. Everything went out of control. So the arrest of Gandhiji, also led. Now Gandhiji was also arrested because of the civil disobedience movement. So what happened is, Abdul Ghaffar Khan arrested, Gandhiji arrested, and people became really violent. They said, no, this is not going to help us. How can you arrest our leaders? So the arrest of Gandhiji, it also led to when people started to attack the police station, all the municipal buildings, or maybe a lot of people attacked the law courts, especially the industrial workers of Sholapur. So the colonial government, it got really frightened and responded with a policy of brutal repression. They said, we'll take charge of the situation, but now we have to get really strict. This won't help us, we have to get strict. So they decided, what we'll do. So at many places like Satyagrahi, all the people who were sitting there, following the practice of Satyagrah, they started to attack them. Even the women and children, they were beaten to the next level. And about lakhs and lakhs of people, they were arrested. Oh, poor the civil disobedience movement. It was really that time, it was under these circumstances that Gandhiji decided that it's best if we call off this movement, because it's really going out of hand. So this is what you are supposed to write when you talk about this question. I hope we've covered all the important points and it's going to stay with you for long. Let's see what we discussed. Like I told you, Britishers got really worried. Violent clash was there. Then we did talk about Abdul Ghaffar Khan, Gandhiji's arrest, colonial government got frightened, and also the Satyagrahis, they were attacked, women and children were, beaten, many of them were put behind the bars, and then Gandhiji was like, done. Not interested. Now I really need to take charge and I'll call off this movement. Good, guys? Okay, so let's proceed to the next question, which says, how did the First World War, 1914 to 18, create a new economic and political situation in India? It's a very important question. Again, an important question. Let's first discuss the question and then we'll answer the question. Let's first try to analyze what the question is asking us to answer. So the very first thing is, how did the First World War create the new economic and political situation? See, they're talking about two aspects, that is the economic and the political situation in India. See, what happened is, because of that huge increase in the defense expenditure, the people, they started to demand, especially the Britishers, they financed everything back from India, and for that they ensure that they have increased the taxes. So, as we discussed, a huge increase in defense expenditure for the army that was working, in the First World War. It was actually financed by the Indians, and they were penalized for the same. Like there was increase in the taxes. Second important thing, how Britishers made use of Indians was, they used to increase. So first we talked about taxes. Second thing that we're going to talk about, there was a continuous price rise at that time, that was caused because of, if there were extreme hardship faced by the common people. They were facing a lot of issues at this time. third important thing is the Britishers were so smart that they even increased or raised the custom duties. They said whatever, that's the tariff right here. Yes, so they increased the custom duties, they were increased, and even the income tax, it was introduced by the Britishers that okay, now we need money. Now we really need money. So this is how we are going to penalize you guys. So what happened is between 1918 to 1921, there was this crop failure. Imagine the prices were already high. Then there was this crop failure that further aggravated the anger in the people. And also all the abled men, they were called upon as soldiers using the forced recruitment in the rural areas. This also sort of created widespread anger. So all the aggravated situation, sort of failure of crop, there was famine, then all the abled or the breadwinner of the family were called upon to serve as the soldiers. So all this in addition to the shortage of essential commodities. It was the natural outcome that now people were looking for something, some sort of hope. And this is when Gandhiji came into picture. And outcome of this was that the natural outcome of this was that the industries, they in India, they sort of geared up their production and took the place of Manchester in back there from Britishers end. And after that, trust me, Manchester could never regain its original position. So let's talk what are the impact. Like I told you, increase in taxes, then there was custom duty, then there was continuous price rise, then the villagers were called upon as soldiers, then there was crop failure, and also the essential commodities price went up. I hope this has helped you. Can I move to the next question? It's an important question between, let's see, when it comes to your nationalism in Europe. So describe the main features of Pune Pact. Did anything click your mind? Yes, this is that particular act that was signed between Gandhiji and B.R. Ambedkar. You know what happened? Gandhiji came back to India after that second roundtable conference. He was very disappointed. He was like, why the hell is every Indian asking for their rights? Why can't we have a united demand in front of, put up a united demand in front of Britishers? So he came back. Now, there was this person, his name is B.R. Ambedkar. He attended all the three roundtable conference, because of which he was given a, sort of communal award. Now, what is this communal award? It was actually a master stroke by the Britishers to divide Hindus into two wings, the depressed classes and the general section. So after the second roundtable conference, B.R. Ambedkar, he sort of demanded that we need separate electorate for the Dalits. And yes, British did concede to his demands. They said, okay, B.R. Ambedkar Sahab, that's gonna be okay. Gandhiji has anyway left. No, this is a sarcasm. Now, Gandhiji has actually, he left because he was really disappointed. So he left because Gandhiji was opposed. Gandhiji used to oppose this. So he went on to, when B.R. Ambedkar was awarded the communal award after the third roundtable conference, Gandhiji went on to fast unto death. He understood that this is Britishers' master stroke. He was at that time in Pune jail, like we discussed in the previous question. So he basically believed that the separate electorate for Dalits would actually slow down the process of, integrating the country or maybe bringing the society together. So B.R. Ambedkar, he finally accepted Gandhiji's position, by signing or whatever he proposed that, okay, we're going to have a separate depressed class, reservation for you. But let's not divide Hindus into two wings. Let's not do that. So Britishers have already divided Hindus and Muslims. Let's not get divided. So Pune Pact sort of gave depressed classes the reservation seats in maybe provincial, maybe legislative councils, but yes, they were, they were to be voted from general electorate. You have the seats reserved, but for that seat there's a depressed person who can stand, but that does not mean only the depressed classes people can vote for him. It's like the general electorate, or anyone who wishes to go in favor of that person can probably take a stand and vote in favor of this person. So this is what we've talked about. The Roundtable Conference, Gandhiji opposed it. So Pune Pact was signed in 1932 when Gandhiji was in Pune jail at that time. Clear? Okay. So let's proceed to the next question. Guys, can anybody explain what is the idea of Satyagraha according to Gandhiji? Like any three random points. I'll give you 2 points. Give me 1 point. So the very first is, it basically, this Satyagraha, it emphasized on the power of truth and the need to, search for the truth. So this is the whole concept of Satyagraha. So it is a very, very new method, that it was a new method at that time, you know, that Gandhiji came up with. So it was, a method of protesting through mass agitation without the use of any force, or, the oppressor. They believe that the oppressor should be actually pushed or persuaded to see the truth, that this is the truth and we are going wrong, and it will ultimately trumpet, or you'll have victory over it. So it also suggested that a struggle against injustice, if the cause is right, there was no need for aggression or maybe physical force. Victory would be won, it could be achieved by appealing to the conscience, or maybe the inner spirit of the oppressor, that you are doing wrong. It's just that you need to convey the message to that person that this will not make sense. Let's see what the message is, what the answer is all about. So like I told you, the idea of Satyagraha, search for truth, and then we talked about that it's the power of truth. Then we talked about this method that gives that the oppressor, the person who's doing injustice, or who's not acting in the right way, he needs to ensure that, okay, I am really not you know uh, doing justice, I'm not doing a justified act. So it's like you have to make him realize that the act he's involved is not at all justified on any ground. And anyway, if you are right, for the right purpose, you don't have to be rebellious. Be very calm, be very patient. Don't use any sort of physical force. This is an important question, by the way. Okay, let's proceed to the next question. It's a very, very easy question from next chapter. That's chapter number 4. Even it was asked once. I've written the year 2014. They've asked this question. So when was the Bretton Woods Conference convened, and what was the main aim of the conference? So let me put it this way. So what happened is, after the Second World War, they invited the top leaders of the countries, and in July 1944, in this place, that's New Hampshire in USA, they sort of sat together, and in New Hampshire, they sort of took uh, decided on that, okay, that now what we have to do is, we've already done enough of destruction. It was after World War II. So decided, see, we've already done the damage has already been done. Now what we need to do is, we need to influence the, or try to control the influence of flow of goods, capital, labor. We have to check that. So yes, the flow of these three things we need to check. Second important thing is, now it's important to concentrate. Now the damage has been done. Now we need to concentrate on the economic stability of Europe and ensure that employment takes place. There is industrial work that offers jobs to the people. So these were the basic main objectives of these conference. And if just in case they ask you what were the outcomes, what were the institutions that they came up with, so they were Bretton Woods twins. The very first Bretton Woods twin was World Bank, and the second one was IMF, International Monetary Fund. So World Bank, yes, I know you guys know the other name, that is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. So these were the two important institutions that were set up, and together they are known as Bretton Woods twins. Let's look into the answer then. So the name of the place, year, and then to preserve the economic stability of Europe and ensure there's employment, and also to influence, control the capital, goods, and labor flow. It was important to have a meeting like this. On that note, let's proceed to the next question. That easy question, yeah. You guys know this question the minute it comes. Now, can you talk about three types of movements or flow within the international exchange? I tell you. I know you know the answer. The very first is, yes, the flow of goods. Then you can briefly talk about it. I'll just explain what points you guys can talk about. Second one is going to be flow of labor. And let me hear it from you guys. What's going to be the third flow? Yes, capital, long term or short term. So what are the points that you guys can add in this case? Let's quickly see those points. See, the very first flow was like when it was related to maybe cloth, maybe wheat. So they used to take care that, okay, so after the corn laws that were scrapped from Britain, that, okay, allowed the entry of corn from different parts of the world, especially they could import food. So Eastern countries like maybe Russia, maybe America, they sort of increase their food productivity so that they could make profit by exporting goods. So this was very, those raw materials, they were very important, for the growth of industries in Britain. And with the increased food productivity in other countries, more and more land, it was sort of pushed for to come under cultivation. So this meant that all the homes, all the settlements which required capital and labor, they, or maybe goods that were supplied from different parts of the country. So yes, they required goods, this first thing. Then you guys know it is the labor, because now they, in different countries there was demand of labor, because people used to migrate in search of work, or maybe they were pushed to different parts of the country, so that of the world, so that they could act as bonded laborers. And also there was flow of capital that can be short term or long term, because a lot of investments were made by the colonial countries at this time. So they wanted to ensure that nothing goes or falls apart. Clear, guys? So let's proceed to the next question on that note. So how did the seasonality of employment affect the life of Indian workers? So here they're not asking about the life in Britain. They're asking about the seasonality of employment that affected the life of Indian workers. Yes, you got it right. So first important thing is, see, they didn't have a fixed hour, a fixed remuneration. So what happened is, because of seasonality of work, there was long period where they used to remain unemployed, and also they were, I would say workers were almost forced again to move back to the streets, because they couldn't survive in good localities. They couldn't ensure themselves that, okay, they have good area where they can live. Many even went back to their villages because they couldn't feed themselves. They couldn't get employed. Third important thing, they anyway had to turn back to all those odd jobs in the cities, because it was like they had to have a meal a day to survive. So these are the things that you need to answer, or jot down when you are answering a question like this. Clear? Can I proceed to the next question? Again, most of you get confused in that question. Let's see. Okay, so the question is, what were the guilds? Important. See, very important. Now it comes, like it has also been asked once. So the question is, what were guilds and how did they make it difficult for the new merchants to set up business in towns of England? Explain. So I'll put it this way. Imagine you guys are having a team and no way you want to introduce a new character. Anybody who steps in into your class, a new set, any fine day, not why to talk about a session. First of all, most of you might make him or her feel comfortable. If it's a girl, boys will probably help, and if it's a boy, then girls would just try to help. So what happens is, so the guilds, they were basically similarly in Europe. We had this groupism, I would say. So the guilds, they were associations of all those artisans, of all those merchants who sort of control the practice of their craft. And it's like they never used to, they were very powerful. They had that monopoly. They were almost granted like monopoly rights by the rulers or that area people to produce and trade in specific products, that nobody's going to take charge of that. Now they themselves used to select the people whom they're going to train and allow to enter the group. Like, you guys are very conscious whom you want to entertain, whom you don't want to entertain in the group. So similarly the stuff was going on. So they regulated, I would say, the competition, the and also restricted the entry of people in trade at that matter. So anybody who's very new at that time would really face a lot of difficulty to set up their own business in the towns of England. Clear, guys? So let's see what the answer is. And here you go. Association of people, may be merchants, may be it can be craftsmen in a particular city. They had monopoly rights. They could trade in specific products. Never reveal their trade secrets, by the way, and only allowed selected people to enter or exit, because they never wanted to you know share their secrets with anyone. Let's proceed. Now, explain the concept of garden city and who developed this system in London. So, talking about this concept of garden city, see, this concept was given by the person whose name is Ebenezer Howard. Yes, you got it right. So, garden city, that means the lungs, where people could live and work. So what happened is, the concept was introduced to basically decongest the localities in London. So it was through this that they could ensure that they had green spaces that would actually serve as the lungs of the city, because there was a lot of choking. A lot of smoke from the chimneys was there. For this, in order to have less polluted, less of pollution, and also to take charge of the growing population level, where they wanted to distance the places where they used to live and work. So a pleasant space that was full of plants, maybe trees, and having beautiful views is what actually was developed by this person. And also it could ensure, like I told you, where a place where people could live and work. Clear? So let's see what the answer is like. It's here right in front of you, given by this England architect. His name is Ebenezer Hobart. It is a place where people could live and work, and it also sort of provided, made less polluted, large block of apartments, and also these areas could serve as lungs for the city. Good? You guys know pretty much, I must say that. Okay, guys. Next question is, who were philanthropists? Explain any two. Now, this most of you get confused, and I don't want you to do that in the exam. So please listen to what I'm trying to say. This question makes sense only and only if you understand what I'm trying to say. So the very first thing is, see, philanthropists, these are all those social workers who are ready to contribute their time, ready to contribute their money, just for the social upliftment, or maybe public morality for that matter. So what steps did they take at that time is, number one is, they used to impose very high penalty, and if anybody gets convicted of any crime, they said, okay, this is the penalty, so that there's a deterrence created in the mind of the people. Second important thing is, they used to offer job to the deserving poor. So yes, one is to create a deterrence, and the second is to create jobs, to create more avenues. Next important thing is, they used to, counting of the criminal population was done. They used to ensure that they count the criminal population, and they also used to create, keep a very, very, I would say, close watch on the activities, and used to investigate the way of life of those criminals, just to check how is their life going on, and would they probably return to a crime like that, or would they relax back. So let's see what we have in the answer. So the question says that philanthropists, they were the social workers who work for the upliftment that I just talked. Again, counting on the criminal population, keeping a watch on their life, imposing high penalties, and also offering jobs to the deserving poor. So this is supposed to be the answer to this question. Do not mix any other point. That's irrelevant. Let's proceed to the next question. Okay, which city had this breakthrough of printing press? Anybody who can answer. Good. It's in Germany that they came up, that they had the breakthrough. By the way, this question was asked in 2016, guys, so that is why I picked up this question for you. Okay, so let's see one more question that is related. Okay, so this is the answer to that question. Let's have one more question, that is, who brought the print culture to Japan? I know it's a very easy question, and I know most of you can answer this question. So see, the Buddhist missionaries from China, you have to write the complete information, the relevant facts. Like, the Buddhist missionaries from China, they introduced print culture into Japan, I guess somewhere around 768 to 770 AD. Let's see. Moving on to the next question, that is, mention one characteristics of feature of the offset press. I know most of you have a lot of trouble in this issue in this chapter, so I'm going to talk about few more questions. See, when I talk about offset press, important feature is that it could print up to 6 colors. It could, yes, print up to 6 colors at one time. That's something big, like really big. Then we have one more question, and this can be asked, the question itself can be asked in the form of a statement if to justify it. That, Martin Luther, who made the statement. It was Martin Luther who remarked that printing is the ultimate gift of God and the greatest one. Can you just make remarks, explain his remarks in the light of all those religious reforms that took place in Europe? Yes, we have an answer. See, Martin Luther, what he did is he wrote those 95 theses criticizing the practices. Just try to concentrate on what I'm trying to say. So Martin Luther, he wrote all those 95 theses criticizing the practices of, or maybe the rituals of Roman Catholic Church. He said this is not the way the things are supposed to be. You are actually, brainwashing the mind of the people. So these copies that he wrote, they were reproduced in large numbers and they were read by a large number of people at that time. So this sort of led, because there was like people started to question, this sort of led uh, to this division within the church into Catholics and Protestants. So this, what happened is, in fact, because of this, now people became more, there was this intellectual atmosphere which helped in the spread of new ideas that were coming up. It paved the way for reformation in the practices of the church. Even to that extent, the message or interpreted or given by the Bible, it was reinterpreted. These people started to reinterpret. They started to question the authority, and also the print encouraged the people to think reasonably on justified ground and question the customs followed in the church. And what are we doing till now? Why couldn't we question? So that is all that you have to answer in this answer to this question. These are the points that you have to take care of. So let's see what I talked about. Like I told you, 95 thesis, division of church. Then there was intellectual atmosphere at this time. People started to reinterpret the Bible and think reasonably. They started to think more reasonably. Okay, on that note, let's proceed to the next question, which I know most of you know this. By the way, who wrote the first proper modern novel, guys, in Hindi? Yes, it was. How many of you know? First, let me try. Let me see how many of you know. The first proper modern novel. I need the name of the novel too. Okay, yes, many of you are telling it's Srinivas Das who published the novel, okay, in 1882. So what is the name of that novel? Yes, it's Pariksha Guru. That's good. You guys have nailed it. I am impressed. Good. So here you go. It's Srinivas Das, and we've talked about it. That's Pariksha Guru in 1882. Okay, let's proceed to this question. Now, by whom was this novel Hard Times written? Who wrote this novel? Very, very, very important person. Yes, he is Charles Dickens. One more book he's talked about. Now, you're going to tell me the name of that book right there in the description or in the chat window. Okay, moving on to the next question, that's got to be the last question. So what problem of the society was focused in the Hard Times that was written by, like we just discussed, in Charles Dickens' novel? What was the main focus? What did they wanted to ensure? Yes, it basically focused on the terrible effects of industrialization on the life of the people, and what are the characteristic traits that undergo a huge change. So this is all that was talked about by Charles Dickens in his novel. So this is generally can be asked in 1 mark. So you have to answer in this particular way. So I guess I've covered most of the important questions from all the chapters. So till we meet next, take care, stay healthy, stay hydrated, and also study really hard. Thank you guys for attending today's lecture. I'll see you next. Bye bye. Take care.